Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren and today's video is going to be the Q&A that it's really overdue. This was a question you asked me months ago and you're like, why did she just never address that? Sorry. I promise I didn't just say like, hey, I'm gonna do a Q&A video, what are your questions? And then just ignored them. It was like in my head, I was like, I have to film that video eventually. But anyway, I'm here now. And I just also thought I'd share, like, full disclosure right now. My, I don't know if you can see this. My pants are just like, oh, hang on. Yeah, just unbuttoned right now. Cause they're too tight. So like, you know, ISO life. Yeah, eating a lot of chocolate and a lot of ice cream and jeans are too tight. So I just wanted to be real for a minute there and just share that with you guys. But anyway, let's get on to the questions. I'm gonna have to try and find them now because honestly, I asked them so long ago that I don't know where they are. Oh, here it is, 30th of May. What are we now? We're 9th of August. First question was, is quarantine making you regress with your agoraphobia because you were forced inside? In the beginning, I didn't think so. I actually really enjoyed lockdown 1. I know there was a couple of people who were kind of with me on that. Like, I am kind of a homebody anyway. I'm not a huge social butterfly. I kind of enjoyed not going to work. I liked just kind of the slowness of it. I liked, you know, cooking all my meals at home, just going out for a walk every day. It was kind of nice to have that break. After I'd recovered from agoraphobia, I was like, I don't want to go back to that. So I was like working really hard and like hustling and, you know, trying to be really busy. And so it was nice to kind of have a forced break from that. Then lockdown ended in Melbourne and we went back to work, and that was kind of where the trouble started for me. Like, I was like, oh, okay, maybe this has affected me more than I thought it did. I started to struggle with driving again. And I guess I felt a bit more panicky and a bit more anxious. On the flip side of that, show me someone who isn't anxious in 2020. You know what I mean? Like, we're all feeling the pinch of this year and the weirdness of it and the just how bizarre and strange it is. So whereas before with my agoraphobia, it felt very irrational, you know, I was scared to go outside, but all of my friends were traveling and living their lives and, you know, doing normal things. But now it's like, we're all doing the same thing and we're all feeling anxious about going outside. So I know it's not an irrational fear at the moment. The second question was, did you ever need meds? I'm trying on my own, but I can't disconnect the panic between gut and brain. #stigma. Yes, I have a whole video on my personal journey with medication and my thoughts on it. So yeah, I am on medication at the moment. I did need medication. My kind of summed up views on medication are, I think it's overprescribed. I think it shouldn't be the first point of call. I know many times in the past when I went to the doctor and said I was, you know, having this or that, I was feeling this way, they were like, here, have some antidepressants. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I feel like they're handed out too frequently. But in saying that, I feel like sometimes it is really useful, it is necessary, all of that. I think it's really up to the individual. But the one thing that did stick out with me with this question is the words, I'm trying on my own. I don't think you should be hard on yourself, but it's just as hard to be on medication. So don't think that, you know, you're trying to do it on your own, but you're like, oh God, I might have to give up and try medication. Because even when you are on medication, you're still doing it on your own. You know, there's no magic pill, there's no like quick fix, there's no hypnosis session or meditation session or no one pill in particular that's going to help you overcome anxiety or agoraphobia or whatever it is. It's you that has to do the work at the end of the day. Even if you are taking a medication to help, it still doesn't help you to find that growth within yourself, if that makes sense. You know, when I started the medication that I'm on, I didn't really have any side effects. Like, it didn't really do anything. Whereas I've been on medications in the past where I felt like I was hit by a bus as soon as I took them. But this one, I didn't feel a lot. I didn't feel like it changed many things. I don't know if it helped or if it didn't, to be honest, but the bottom line was it was still me who had to get in the car and face the fear and feel the panic and, you know, do all the scary things. That was still me that was doing all that work. So I think there's this whole idea that sometimes, at least, that taking medication can be taking the easy way out. Either way, it's fucking hard. Whether you're on medication or not, you still have to go through the scary things. You still have to feel the anxiety, feel the panic. There is no medication that is going to take away anxiety completely. So I'm not saying that to get you to try medication or to advocate for medication. I just think that, you know, you shouldn't beat yourself up for feeling like, you know, I couldn't do it on my own, so I had to take medication. There's none of that. You know what I mean? Like, either way, it's still you doing it on your own. You're still the one who has to go through it, whether you're taking medication or not. But yeah, in saying that, like I said, I don't necessarily think that medication helped me. I don't know for sure because I haven't been off it, but it's certainly, you know, it didn't take away my panic. It didn't take away my anxiety. It didn't really make any remarkable difference at all. So the next question, how do you feel after getting rid of toilet anxiety? Pretty good. No, I'm kidding. I still deal with toilet anxiety sometimes, but in saying that, I am a lot better than I was back in the day, because back then, you know, I really struggled to leave the house because I was like, but what if I need to pee? And I had this obsession and I couldn't get past it. And it does really feel good to not have to worry about that. Like this morning, for example, I woke up and I did some yoga, and then I got in my car and drove and went for a run. And it's funny because years ago, I used to run along this path near my house that has a lot of public bathrooms. And I did that deliberately because I was like, well, during my run, if I need the bathroom, then, you know, there's plenty there. Like, I'll have one to go to. But now I'm like, I'm sure that I can get through the next hour without needing the bathroom. So where I run now is like out in the bush and there's no bathrooms around. So there is that difference in my life now of just not feeling controlled by it, not feeling like I have to do certain things or to have certain safety behaviors in order to deal with it. But yeah, like I said, sometimes it still does come up. Sometimes, especially if I am sick. I had gastro at the beginning of this year. Honestly, 2020 has been a shit show so far. But yeah, I had gastro in the beginning of this year, and that kind of knocked me around for a couple of days afterwards. Even for a few weeks afterwards, I noticed I had more of those thoughts of like, but what if I shit my pants? Because yeah, I felt physically off. And so sometimes it takes a while for me to regain that equilibrium. And it's definitely a practice and something that I have to sort of keep doing and keep reminding myself of. Do you feel comfier sharing on Instagram or YouTube? Honestly, I think Instagram. Kind of like, I think with Instagram, that was the first place that I started being open about my anxiety, whereas YouTube kind of took me a while. There are people that I've had on Instagram that I've been following for years, and I feel like I know their lives, they know my life, and it feels a bit more like family. Whereas I think on YouTube, you know, you don't really know who's watching your stuff. Like, I end up on random videos sometimes at like, you know, midnight when I'm trying to sleep. I'll end up on some totally bizarre video that I don't know how I got there. You know how you go down the YouTube rabbit hole, and that person would never know that I'm watching, which sounds really creepy. But yeah, I just feel like on Instagram, I kind of know who I'm interacting with, whereas on YouTube, it's kind of, I don't know, feels a bit more public, I guess. You advocate pushing through panic. When do you rest as pushing on is exhausting? I spoke about this a couple of times in my IGTV since I got asked this question, because it kind of niggled at me for a while. I was like, I don't want to be the person that advocates pushing through. I don't want to be the one pushing people. Yeah, I think what I spoke about on Instagram, I'm sorry if you already saw this, but I think it's really important to kind of change your mindset with that and not think that you are pushing yourself, because pushing feels like a lot of resistance, and it feels a bit sticky, and it feels a bit hard and tiring. It feels exhausting when you talk about pushing through panic. I like to look at it as being pulled towards something. So for me, I know I've spoken so many times about how I want to travel, and you know, there are so many places around the world that I want to go. I let myself be pulled towards that rather than pushing from a place where I don't want to be. I'm letting myself be pulled to a place that I do want to be. Does that make sense? But basically, I think that, of course, when you are doing something that scares you, when you are in situations where you have a lot of adrenaline in your body, it is going to be tiring, because adrenaline is tiring. So of course, I think it's important to rest. I think a lot of times my rest comes in the form of like really basic, getting enough sleep. But also, you know, having days where I do yoga in the morning and do a gentle yoga practice instead of like a, you know, a more sweaty yoga practice. Having a night where I sit down and watch a movie and have a glass of wine or read a book, or just, you know, kind of just having those moments of slowness. For example, you know, like say you have an event on, and like me, maybe you know, really struggle with leaving the house, and so you had to really work up to that event. Yes, you are going to be tired afterwards, and yes, the next day maybe it's important to take some extra care of yourself. Allow yourself to do it slowly and to be gentle, but also, like I said, allow yourself to be pulled towards what it is that you want. Oh God, I'm sitting on one of my legs and it just went numb. Okay, great, it's good. Okay, I'll get to that one. What was the hardest part about your recovery? The hardest part for me with recovery was that I didn't just wake up one day recovered. And I kind of really thought that I was going to. I think when I was in the throes of agoraphobia, I was like, man, I can't wait for the day where, you know, I just don't feel this way anymore. And to be honest, that day didn't come. I mean, I guess I would say now that everything's different to the way it was back then, and I don't think that way at all, but it wasn't like just one day it just was totally different. You know what I mean? Like, it was a gradual thing, and it happened kind of in a way that I didn't notice it. I was still kind of waiting for it to happen, and then I remember one day when I went to my best friend's engagement party, which was in the city. I think the video of that is on this channel. Best friend was there and heaps of our other friends were there, and they were like, well, what happened to your agoraphobia? I know, I'm out in the city, like, this is weird, huh? For a long time, recovery was like, you know, a square dance. A little bit forward, a little bit sideways, a little bit back, a little bit sideways, a little bit forward. Like, it wasn't linear. I didn't just, you know, start at the bottom and then grow. It was all over the place. That was the hardest part about recovery, and accepting that it was going to be like that was also really fucking hard, because I did not want it to be like that. I wanted to be better, and I wanted to be better now, and I didn't want to wait. But something that I learned was that it wasn't getting to recovery that was important. It wasn't that I was here and I was agoraphobic and I needed to get here. What was most important was the places in between, because that was where I learned the most about myself. That was where I grew. That was where the magic was. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's true. And I'm still kind of on that now. I think for the rest of my life, I'll kind of not be agoraphobic, but I will always have anxiety to some degree, as every single one of us human beings does. And I will always kind of be like up and down and around and you know, a bit all over the place, and that's okay. But yeah, so that was definitely the most difficult thing for me to learn, was just that it's not going to be black and white. It's not going to be, you know, sick and then recovered. It's always going to be kind of all the shades at once. How did you stop fearing having a panic attack? That one was hard, and it honestly, it's something that I still have to practice and I still have to work out, and I still mess up sometimes. A panic attack is your internal smoke alarm. And if you've ever heard a smoke alarm go off, nobody likes it. Nobody hears a smoke alarm go off and sits there underneath it and is like, this noise is great. I'm having a great time. I love this. It's the same with panic. Nobody has a panic attack and thinks, this is fucking awesome. I'm so happy right now. It's designed to feel yuck. Panic attacks are designed to feel horrendous. It's a call to action. It's your body being like, this is bad. I need to get out. It's trying to get you to move and to do something. When they come on, I'm still like, oh, fuck. Like, it's a jolt and I don't like it. But it's kind of it took me a long time to just kind of keep practicing that acceptance. So I think that's the key thing, to kind of stop fearing them in a sense. They still feel awful, but it's practicing that acceptance around them and just knowing that, like, okay, this feeling right now is supposed to feel this way. It's just kind of telling myself, this is how it is supposed to feel. Like, you don't have to do anything right now. Keep on doing that, keep on doing that. And after, 10, 20, 30 times of doing it, eventually it becomes easier to do and you become quicker at it. Of course, I still have panic attacks where they knock me on my ass and I can't cope. When I had that like downswing a few weeks ago, I freaked when I had that panic attack because it came out of nowhere and it was really physical and really yuck and I didn't like it. But for the most part, I have gotten quicker at kind of catching them and just learning to sit with it. One of the best things that I do is that usually I will film it, which I know sounds really weird and like voyeuristic, but I find that if I get my camera out and I start filming and I start talking, that helps me to deal, or to not sit in that place where I'm like, oh my God, what's happening to me? What's going on? And I'm like scanning my body for the next bad feeling. If I film it, I'm kind of distracted and I'm talking and I'm feeling it, but I'm also removing myself from it a little bit. So it's kind of that dance between allowing yourself to feel it, but then also knowing that it is not, like, you don't have to fully associate with it. Yeah. How do you get out of your head when you're having anxiety-induced insomnia? I kind of tend to either read a book or I watch a show, which probably isn't a good thing to do when you can't sleep. Yeah, I tend to put on a show that kind of makes me giggle, Queer Eye or something like that. Just kind of, that helps me get out of my head. But if I really am having these ruminating thoughts that are just annoying the shit out of me, then I will get up and I will write. I will journal them. Sometimes if one of my best friends is awake, I'll message him on Facebook and be like, hey, I'm having this problem, and I'll, talk it through with him. But yeah, if I can't do that, I will just write it. Sometimes it just helps to just get it out. Get it out of your brain, get it out of your mouth, like just get it out. Oh, okay, like it doesn't even feel so bad anymore. So basically my go-tos are watching Queer Eye, listening to an audiobook, or physically reading, or writing it, going to my journal and just writing it all out and just trying to get it all out of me. How did your partner deal with your agoraphobia when you were housebound? It's hard to answer that because I'm not him. So I guess from my perspective, he kind of just continued on with his life as normal. I was talking to someone about this the other day and I was saying that it was really hard for me back then because I felt a lot of anger towards him that he was able to do that and that I wasn't. Like when we'd get invited to a party or something and then he would go and I couldn't, and I would say goodbye to him. I used to be really pissed off at him because I was like, fuck you for being able to go to this when I can't. Like, why is it so easy for you and it's not easy for me? I guess the way he dealt with it was just did what he could for me, but he also kind of let me direct myself, which was good because I didn't want someone, you have to do this and you have to do that and you're not trying hard enough, and that would have been really destructive for me. He just kind of left me to my own devices, which was great. How did you first explain your phobic struggle in the beginning of your romantic relationship? So I can't remember how I can. Probably our third date that I told Anthony what was going on with me, and basically I think I told him that I was writing a book on our first date, and I was ready to tell him what it was about if he asked. I was going to be like, well, it's about anxiety, but he didn't ask. He was just like, oh, that's cool, awesome. And then we kept on talking, so I was like, okay, so that didn't come up. But so then we went on a second date, and then the third date we went on, or maybe it was the second date, I can't remember. Anyway, it was very early on, but he was talking about someone he knows who has bad anxiety, and then he was like, I've struggled with anxiety myself, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad you said that because me too. Actually, I was agoraphobic for years, and he was like, what? Yeah, like I didn't leave my house, and as I was saying it, I was like, shut up, Lauren, and like I don't know what he was thinking, but he's like, my anxiety was never that bad. And I remember when he said that, my heart fell. Oh my God, he thinks you're a fucking freak. Abort mission now. I just, you know what, I stayed open with it. Yeah, okay, so this is what my life was like. And I was, you know, every question he asked, I answered pretty openly. I can talk about this more in another video if you guys want, about my dating experience with anxiety, because I was very much like Goldilocks in terms of how much information I gave away about my agoraphobia and my anxiety. Like the first guy, I said nothing. The second guy, I said a little bit. The third guy, I said a little bit more. And then with Anthony, I was like, bleh. Here's my whole anxious history. And, you know, surprise, surprise, that one felt the most real and the most authentic, and that was kind of how I developed a really great relationship with him from the beginning. But also I think it had something to do with the fact that it was easier with him to talk to him about that. He was very receptive, and he was the right guy for me to say that stuff to, if that makes sense. Whereas the first guy, I definitely didn't get the vibe that that was something I could talk about. So yeah, basically I was just very word vomity with it, very open with it. I went in, and once I had said the first thing, I said, oh yeah, I was agoraphobic for years. I was like, well, I can't fucking go back now. So I just basically kind of told him all the things. I didn't tell him that I had been in a psych ward briefly. I left that until a little bit later. Yeah.